Let's talk about Creature Commandos. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Screen Sanctum. I'm Steve. Creature Commandos Season 1 just ended, and I wanted to talk about it while it's fresh in my head and fresh in everyone's head. I don't want this to be a 30-minute video. I just want it to be a quick what I thought of it, what I thought of the characters, and then we could talk about anything we want in the comments below. So I'll just jump right in and talk about what did I think of this show. I personally really enjoyed the show, and you might get a little bit confused here. I enjoyed the show a lot while simultaneously feeling like it really wasn't about anything. And it's just because I enjoyed all of the characters. I mean, to me, basically, this show was just to introduce us to Cersei. That's how I kind of feel. I know it had a through line. We got Clayface, we got these creatures, we got the princess. But I really feel like it was like, we need to introduce Cersei because she's going to show up in live action and people are going to want to know about her. Even though we didn't get much about her, only that we think that she wants to destroy the world and some people think the princess wants to destroy the world. But other than that, there's really not a lot. It's a huge origin story for everyone. And as someone who doesn't particularly like them, I loved it here because of the fact that, to me, the series really wasn't about much. So I'm glad that we got to learn a little bit about the characters because I really did enjoy all of the characters. I got some things I wanted. I got some things I didn't want. But that happens when you watch a TV show or a movie. It doesn't make something bad. Like, for instance, I'll start with Weasel because we've seen Weasel in the past and we saw him again. I personally did not want Weasel to be redeemed. It's fine if you wanted him to, or if you didn't, that's totally fine. But I can't base my opinion on the show on the fact that he did get redeemed. I can't say this show sucked because they made Weasel a good animal. No, I could watch this and say, okay, they did redeem Weasel. Did it make sense? And does it work for the story they're telling here? And if you watch it all the way through, it does make sense because something happens in the last episode, we'll talk about it, that kind of, fits the story. So yeah, it's not a huge twist to say, oh, all we know is he's killed 20 plus kids and that's all they've been telling us. So he has to be bad. But no, we learned that actually he was saving children and a cop shot him, and the cop told whoever that he killed all the kids. So now everyone thinks he's a murderer, and that's why he was captured. So I am happy, though, that since they made him good, that at the end, when he tried to save the princess, because he really connected with her, she was the only one who really played with him, that everyone was petting him, calling him a good boy, and was telling that they were going to build a statue for him because of, the sacrifice he made or tried to make. So that was cool. So again, didn't need him to be redeemed, but he was. And I think what they did with him this season was pretty cool. We get the princess, who for all intents and purposes in the beginning, we see her as a nice person, just leading her country. But we see at the end that she really wants to take over the world. But we don't really get much of why does she want to take over the world? What exactly is she going to do to take over the world? I don't think that her troops knew what she was doing, like she was doing it on her own, but they didn't really give us much. And that was like the main plot. The princess was one of the main plots of the show, and we really don't get to learn anything more than she actually was trying to take over the world. We get the Bride of Frankenstein. The bride I loved. And it's funny, my love of her changed from the beginning to the end, not as a character, meaning she was a great character in this show. In the beginning, I loved her because of everything she went through, even though she's not a human. She is a monster created, and she's been stalked for thousands of years. Like, Frankenstein, the monster, is a sexual predator. He's garbage, and she needs to get out of that. But he's going to keep coming for her and coming for her. So I was like, okay, cool. She's building a relationship with Nina. That was nice. But then at the end, and again, we could all have different opinions, when they find out or when they think that, when they know the truth, that the princess was the one trying to destroy the world and they were there to kill her, you have the bride and Dr. Phosphorus together with Nina, right? You have the bride who can't die, Phosphorus who's OP. They've shown him in this show to be OP. And they send Nina to kill her. Like, she's the princess of a military who has military training. And the bride calls her friend, like, I'm killing you because you killed my friend. You set her up to die. Like, you could say, oh, it was the only way to do it. There was no other way. It was because of Weasel that this happened. But you also have to think, Nina has never killed anyone, has never fought anyone, does not have a mean bone in her body. She was only arrested because she was a freak. You know, that's the only reason why she was arrested. No experience. So even if she did get a stab off, there's no guarantee that one, that would have killed the princess, two, that the princess wouldn't have parried it and killed her anyway. And even if she did kill the princess, I don't think she was getting out of that lake alive. And if you say, oh, of course she would get out of the lake alive because the bride and Dr. Phosphorus were there to protect her. If that's the case, they could have did it themselves. They could have went around and killed all the troops and then killed the princess, but they didn't. So that's why I'm like, bride, you had me at the end. I don't know. I hate you for sending Nina to her death. And we'll talk about Nina. She is the nicest character, just like I said. The sweetest, the most pure, is only there because she was a monster, which I'm confused why Waller would want her when she has no tendency of killing. You know, I'll talk about Dr. Phosphorus later, but he was a good guy, turned into what he turned into, and took advantage of it. And that's why they took him. She didn't do that. She just wanted to live in the ocean or live in the sewers and not bother anyone. So while Waller, I guess Waller thought maybe she could train her to be a killer or something like that. But I mean, after the first 5 episodes, you could see she did not really want to be there. And she was the only one besides Weasel at the end who even had the inkling of a thought to say, maybe we're doing the wrong thing. Turns out they were doing the right thing, but still, just because someone sends you to do something, sometimes you do got to think about it. But again, they're the Creature Commandos, basically the Suicide Squad. The only reason why they're out is because Waller is sending you on a mission. So I get it. You have to do what she says. Rick Flag, not much to say about him besides he was easily manipulated by a beautiful blonde. He is the one who thought he figured out that it was a ruse and that the princess wasn't the one trying to destroy the world. But the thing, and again, hindsight is 2020. You can only think about it at the time. If he was really trying to save the princess, when he called that trooper and was like, listen, Waller is sending them to kill the princess and it's not her fault, like they have to stop. Why didn't Rick Flag just say, is the bride there? He would have said, oh yeah, the bride is here. And he could have said, hey bride, this is what I just saw. Don't go kill the princess because like she is not going to destroy the world. It turns out that that is not correct. But at that point in time, that's what Rick Flag should have did. And I think that is what the princess was planning, for Rick to find that and tell them so they wouldn't go there. And I mean, it would have worked if Rick just was a little bit smarter, like just ask one question. Not to say that the bride would have been like, listen, that's all well and good. Waller told us we have to do this. We're doing it anyway, you know? So there's that. It was a little confusing to me, but after rewatching the scene, I get that they were trying to say that the professor wasn't who, she was telling Waller that the princess is the enemy, and then they killed her later with Clayface to say, oh no, Clayface just wanted you to think that it really is Cersei that's the danger, so that they wouldn't go back, right? So I'm assuming the princess would have figured that the message would have been relayed from Rick Flag to tell everybody to stand back, and she would have been good to go. Unfortunately, Rick's an idiot, and he did not relay the message. We have Frankenstein. There's really nothing to talk about with him. He is basically just a creep. I highly doubt we'll see him in live action. I don't need to see him in live action. He has no qualities. all he does is stalk a woman. So, like, okay, not really interested in that kind of plot. That's really all he was there for, was comedic effect, which is fine for this show. But it's been thousands of years. You cannot redeem Frankenstein. So I don't have to talk much about that. Then we will get to the last two characters. One, the one that I kind of was annoyed with at the beginning, and two, the one who was my favorite at the beginning, G.I. Robot. I liked the character and the premise. I was just kind of getting a little bit annoyed with his dialogue because he just kept saying the same thing over and over about killing Nazis. Like, okay, dude, we get it. That's what you're programmed for. But after seeing his backstory is when I was like, okay, I just got to take a minute. He's literally, this is why he's programmed. That's all he sees. That's all that's in his mind. He's not really there to do anything to make friends. You put him in an area with 1,000 people, he's looking for Nazis. Like, that's all. So I was like, okay, I get it, why he does all of this. So it was sad when he died in the middle of the series, but I did like the fact that he kept asking, are we going to kill Nazis? And they're like, we don't know. We're not going specifically to kill Nazis. But by the time that scene came, Rick Flag was like, listen, if we want G.I. Robot to fight, we got to tell them that these are Nazis. And it was so cool to be like, he said, like, paraphrasing, yeah, G.I. Robot, they're Nazis. And then he just went buck wild with all his guns until he died. But at least he went out on his own terms. He went out killing Nazis. And then we have Dr. Phosphorus. So Dr. Phosphorus, I think, is my favorite character altogether in the whole series. It's funny. He's my favorite character, but my favorite episode, I think, was the G.I. Robot episode. Dr. Phosphorus was fine, but it's just, I like him because of his powers, but they wrote him, to me, in this show to be super, super OP, like nothing can happen. But then we get that like cameo of Batman, which is like, okay, you know, Dr. Phosphorus, they killed his family. They tried to kill him. He turned into kind of like the Ghost Rider. And I'm just saying that for like visualization because I don't know he's not fire, but I don't know what's like coming from his bones. And then he takes over, you know, the mafia. Everything's going well. Then we see Batman and it's like, that is when he got captured. How the hell is Batman catching Dr. Phosphorus? I understand everyone always argues prep time, but they built him up to be this big, badass OP character where he melts through tanks. He does all of this shit. If he sets himself on fire, Batman cannot touch him. Like, come on. I don't get, like, usually Batman fights somebody, maybe he gets his ass kicked, and then he's like, I need to create this so the next time I fight him, I have a chance. Unless he already knows a weakness. But if he doesn't know much about this guy and he comes out to fight him, you think Dr. Phosphorus is just going to burn his face off? Do you see how easily he burned through a tank and all of these people's faces? So that's the thing that kind of got me mad at the end is, you know, also they showed the bride basically killing Frankenstein, but he survives, which means the bride and Frankenstein cannot be killed. You probably have to decapitate them or take them apart somehow or use lightning like they were created. But they're showing us that they can't die. So when you're at the end and you have the princess in the lake and you're trying to kill her and it's a character who can't be killed, a character who they showed us to be OP, and a fish girl who has never done anything in her life, dangerous, never held a knife. Why would you send the fish girl? I understand it was water, but you have to think of this. Like, I've never killed anybody. If you gave me a knife and you said, sneak up on so-and-so and kill them, they're a bad person. Like, what am I going to do if I had the balls to do it? I'd go behind them and I'd stab them once. Like, I don't know how to kill a person, and Nina doesn't know how to kill a person. The princess knows how to kill a person, and that was what clicked in my mind. That made me think that even if Nina would have not been seen, Nina would not have plundered that knife into the princess like 5, 6 times the way the princess did to her. She probably would have stabbed her once. She doesn't even know where to stab her. You would think the heart, but she said go for the stomach and twist. Like, that's not a guaranteed kill. So that's why I'm very mad at Dr. Phosphorus and the bride for sending Nina to do the dirty work. I'm really sad about that death. And then what makes it even worse is at the end, when the bride kills the princess, she says, I'm not going to kill you because you were going to destroy the world. I'm going to kill you because you killed my friend. Really? The friend that you manipulated into doing your dirty work, now you care about that? I don't know. So again, I know you might be confused. I did really enjoy this show, but when you like something, sometimes you don't like everything about it. Sometimes there are things that you nitpick and things that you don't like, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I really did enjoy this show. The last thing that made me kind of laugh is, yes, Nina didn't have a chance to actually kill the princess because Weasel really loved the princess because she showed him some time playing fetch with him. So Weasel was there to make the distraction. In their world, yeah, their mission succeeded, but Weasel fucked it up. But at the end, Weasel is still in the group. Like, why would they want him there when you can't trust him? You know now that Weasel has feelings. Like, you can't talk to him. You can't be like, you can't do that anymore. Like, you can't have feelings for anyone, but he's always going to think about that. He's always going to think about the kids, about how they died for no reason and he was trying to save them and the humanity of them, that if they send them on another mission, what is he going to do? Is he going to really go crazy and like be a killer? I guess you could tell him, like, if you do this again, I'll zap you and kill you like they did in the Suicide Squad to like Captain Boomerang. Wait, was he blown up? No, it was the other guy who was climbing the building. I forgot his name. But like they took him back and that was funny to me. So I wanted to make this quick. I think it's probably like maybe 10 minutes, but I really want to have a discussion, right? I don't want to have a flame war. If you disagree with me, tell me why, and we could talk about it in the comments. But again, I really enjoyed this show. If I had to rate it out of 10, I would say maybe like a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. I love the characters. The backstory and the origins were my favorite parts to get to know these characters. It's just the main story to me was weak and there really wasn't a point to it besides to introduce the world to Cersei so she could come into live action. But those are my thoughts. Let me know, do you agree with me, disagree with me? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below and we'll talk about it. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace, guys.